Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to a long-term series I'd like to call TDA, Total Drama Analyzation. Now, here's how this series is going to work. Every single episode will basically talk about one specific character, going into their roots and their character development over time. Now, for characters who didn't compete in a lot of seasons, they will probably have shorter videos. But, with that being said, what we're going to do in this video is quite simple. First, we're going to talk about Zeke's experience on the show. Then, we'll talk about things I liked and things I didn't like. Then, I'll give him a ranking. And when I'm done with all these rankings, every character will be shown on a spreadsheet at the end of each episode. So, with that being said, let's get into this. Ezekiel is first introduced in Total Drama Island as one of our first 22 competitors. And from the beginning, it's quite easy to tell that this dude does not fit in. I mean, for the positives, at least Zeke competed in the first challenge and actually jumped off the cliff, but in part 2 it makes it a lot worse given the fact that his team lost and he did nothing to contribute. That night, Ezekiel makes some very questionable comments, and I'm just gonna let you take a listen.
Well, I just don't get why we lost, eh? They're the ones that have 6 girls.
What's that supposed to mean?
Yeah, homeschool. Enlighten us.
Well, guys are much stronger and better at sports than girls are. My dad told me to look out for the girls here, eh? And help them in case they can't keep up.
Still think we need your help keeping up?
Not really. Okay, guys, let's give him a break. At least he doesn't think that guys are smarter than girls.
But they are.
Yeah, so, not the best time on a reality television show, but it could have been worse, right? Right? I don't think it gets much worse than that, and because of what he said, Ezekiel is voted out first boot, and honestly, it was a pretty simple, yet pretty tragic ending to a very bland character. We see Zeke go from rags to riches somehow, and likely due to him being on the loser's island for the longest period of time, as he was the first boot. There's really not much else I need to say about Ezekiel for this season. He finds his way to riches and enjoys himself. However, he sadly does not get to compete in Total Drama Action as he did not go into the water. In Total Drama Action, Ezekiel is seen briefly, mainly in Aftermath. But besides that, Ezekiel really doesn't do that much this season, until the Celebrity Manhunt special, where we find out he will be competing in Season 3 of Total Drama.
Ho ho homies, get in focus and take notice. I'm what is, oh yeah, that's showbiz.
World Tour starts off fantastic for Ezekiel. He gets shoved out of a plane and barely makes his way back. After some pretty awesome vocals,
But this stowaway's got grinning in his heart.
we get to the first challenge and things immediately turn on the wrong page for Zeke. With him selling his team's challenge and getting voted out immediately. I mean, it didn't even take the homeschool kid one episode to get voted out. That's just outrageous, man. After his elimination, Ezekiel manages to stay onto the plane by holding on barely by the wing. And it appears that Zeke is still on the plane, which we find out in the Japan episode when we see the contestant searching through the plane.
Goodbye, first class.
Zeke is later seen once again on the plane, and he finally gets his time to shine in the Aftermath show, where he's seen on Total Drama Fugitives. And if I'm being completely honest, I think all the footage they use of him is quite funny. I mean, take a look. Now this raises the question, how does Chris McClain feel about all this? I mean, he knows the fact that Ezekiel is still on this plane, so there's gotta be something he's gonna do, right? After a few brief Zeke cameos, we finally get the answer to this question, where we see Ezekiel suit up as Jack the Ripper in episode 13, I See London. When Ezekiel returns in I See London as Jack the Ripper, it's quite easy to tell what his objective is. Take everybody out. Simple. And, I mean, it's not like he doesn't do a good job at this. He takes out many contestants, and the only reason that he lost was the fact that Owen nearly killed him. After the challenge, we finally get the reveal of Ezekiel, and honestly, it's quite shocking.
But hey, we caught the Ripper type guy!
Found him living in the cargo hold, homeschooling with the rats.
I was gonna let him back in the game if he could avoid getting captured, but since he could not...
So, from what you just saw, we learned that Ezekiel is now, like, greenish. He's turning into this zombie-like thing. Red eyes and just looking really, really messed up. Also, Chef says he was homeschooling with the rats. That means he has... What? I don't even know what to say about that. We see Zeke continue to live on the plane, which honestly doesn't go too badly for him. I mean, given the fact that he is a zombie-like creature at this point, it honestly works out well, and I think it's a good living environment. We see Zeke make another return when teams of 2 have to kidnap him and win the challenge. And given the idea of this challenge, it obviously does not go well for anyone. Fortunately though, Zeke and Duncan are hit with a tranquil gun, and that knocks both of them out. And somehow Ezekiel makes his way back onto the plane with vengeance. We see Zeke make a return a couple more times before the finale this season, like when Sierra blows up the plane. Also, are we not going to question the things they had on the plane? Bears, ducks, seagulls, Ezekiel's. I mean, dude, why is a horse here? It makes no sense to me, and I love it. We see another Zeke cameo, and this time it just doesn't last that long after Zeke is destroyed by a freaking chair. In the final episode of Total Drama World Tour, we see Zeke cameo in both finales. One where he fights Chris for the money, and the other where he fights Heather for the money. And both ways don't end so well for Zeke, as he falls into a volcano, which is about to erupt. We see Zeke get sent flying, and then we see Zeke start heading towards the sun, I can only assume. And that's pretty much it for Ezekiel's time on World Tour, which honestly was kinda sad. I mean, the dude turned into a whole zombie because Chris didn't like him. All the dude wanted to do was try and compete for money, and irregardless of if he sucked at it, he still tried. Season 4 begins, and Zeke is back. We see him briefly with the OG contestants on a giant yacht where he's seen at the front, holding on to the anchor type thing. I don't know the name of it. Anyways, we see Zeke up here in A Mine is a Terrible Thing to Waste. And this shows us that Zeke is now the leader of this toxic waste-filled mine, which honestly is kinda terrifying. I mean, look at all the help he has. Look at it. In the process of this, we see Zeke hit on Anne Maria, which is kinda weird, but I guess it makes up for his toxic comments in season 1? I don't know. We see Zeke enter the prize money from last season, and it is ruined. I mean, yikes, man. When Lightning comes out of nowhere to get the Gilded Chris statue, we see him and Zeke approach each other, and their confrontation is honestly kind of funny.
If you can hear this, congrats!
Mission accomplished. Move out!
I just love the look on Zeke's face when Lightning just grabs him by his neck. It's just so funny to me. And then when he gets punted, it's absolutely hilarious. After this, we see Ezekiel appear one more time before the finale of Revenge of the Island. All that Zeke does in the finale is hit on Anne Maria and get absolutely destroyed by a frying pan. We see Ezekiel return in Total Drama All-Stars, but of course this is just a McClane prank.
No way is that guy coming back again!
After this, we see Ezekiel make his final cameo in person during the 100th episode of the series. We see him kidnap Chris as a way of getting revenge, I suppose, and by this point you can really tell how bad Zeke has gotten. I mean, his spit is acid, and he looks so weird. It's so weird to imagine that this guy used to be normal. It's bizarre, honestly. And in the episode itself, Chris nearly kills himself by making jokes about Zeke, and honestly, I kinda laughed at them. Even though I hate All-Stars, I thought this episode was one of the better ones of the season, just because of how bizarre it is.
Yeah, quite the killer drool you got there. That's toxic waste exposure for you. Am I right? What's up? You upset with me or something? Where's all this anger coming from? Was it season 3 when I kicked you off the plane? Was it last year when I sealed you inside a mine full of toxic waste? When I flew you back in just to boot you out again?
That was absolutely hilarious. Throughout the rest of the episode, we see Zeke capture contestants until just Gwen and Cameron remain. And when Gwen and Cameron remain, they manage to take out Zeke by nearly killing Cameron, so yeah. And with that final episode, that would pretty much end Zeke's appearances in the show. However, he had a brief cameo in Redonkulous Race, which I never knew about until making this video, so that's pretty cool.
Is it on? Okay, watch this, guys. I'm gonna bag me a big old moose. Mom? Mom? Oh, shit!
Alright, let's give my thoughts about Ezekiel. Now, in Island, I do believe he was very boring, very shallow, and just pretty gross and weird, which honestly, for the majority of the people who got voted out early in Island, a lot of them fit a lot of those characteristics. Oh, and let's not forget about the sexist comments by Zeke. I mean, just not cool, man. Not cool. And it doesn't help that Zeke didn't compete in Season 2, so there's not anything I can say about that. But then when Season 3 rolled around and the writers put this guy in a whole new direction, creating him as a zombie character, I honestly like the concept, but it's just so dark, man. Like, it's so weird to imagine a normal teenager get turned into a zombie over trying to win $1 million. Now, I don't hate the writers for going in this direction. Honestly, it's a new and unique idea. And honestly, the execution wasn't terrible, but it could have been better. Zeke was treated like an outcast from the beginning, and honestly, the dude just never adjusted. So, to see him get his own time to be this own entity is just really weird. But I don't hate it entirely. Don't get me wrong, the concept of a teenager turning into a zombie seems weird, but the way that they do it through him being like actually terrifying and just bizarre at any given moment, I don't hate it. But as I said, execution, there were opportunities for Zeke to be better, and him ruining the finale did not cheer me up in any type of way. And considering that's my favorite total drama finale, I feel like I would like it more if Zeke didn't fall into the volcano with the money. But that's just my opinion. And by the time Season 4 and 5 occur, Zeke is established as just a weird zombie guy who lives in a mine. I mean, there's not much else I can say besides the fact that he tried to capture and kill Chris. But other than that, that's kind of it for Zeke. That's kind of where his character just kind of ends. And overall, I can't say I'm truly upset at what the writers went for. I think the execution wasn't perfect, but it also came with a lot of funny moments and just interesting plot lines. So overall, if I had to give Zeke a rating, I think I'd give him a 4.2. Don't get me wrong, I think Zeke could have been worse, but he was still pretty bad. I mean, let's not forget about how shallow and bland and sexist he was in Season 1, plus him turning into a zombie was awkward at times, irregardless of the funny humor it sometimes brought. But overall, I think Zeke could have been a lot worse. But in my opinion, I think a 4.2 is fair. Okay sometimes, but for the majority, he just lags behind. Alright, and here is our first spreadsheet of the series. At the end of every episode, I'll be showing spreadsheets with current placements for everyone. So right now, Ezekiel is the best total drama character. It's definitely not like he has no competition at all. But with that being said, that'll pretty much do it for this video. I'd just like to thank you guys for being so patient with me. I know my uploading schedule isn't great, and I do try my best. I just get sick a lot, and I've been busy with school, and I know you guys understand that, so I'd just like to thank all of you guys. If you haven't already, go ahead and join the Discord, and leave suggestions down below in the comments. And if you have any suggestions for this series specifically or video ideas, let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, and I really hope you guys like this series, as this is our new long-term total drama content. So, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and that'll do it for this one. Take it easy. Peace.
Hey Goop, what's up? Cool binder. Hey Goop, wanna come over to my house today?
They all hated me. Eventually...